Chapter 10. One Eyes. In later times Apollo had other sons. Two of them came to be worshipped almost like gods. Both were mortal, yet both were more than mortal, for Apollo was their father, and he gave them some of his own great powers. One son was Orpheus. Apollo gave him the gift of music, and Orpheus became the greatest singer the world had ever known. The music he made was so beautiful that even wild animals and trees and rivers would come to listen. He was a true son of the god of music. The other son was named Asclepius. To him Apollo gave the gift of healing. From near and far the sick came to him, and those wounded in battle. Always he took away their pain and made them well again. But in the end Asclepius used his gift in a way that made Zeus angry, for in the end he dared to do what only a god may do. He dared to bring a dead man back to life. So Zeus hurled his thunderbolts at Asclepius and struck him down. Then Apollo was wild with sorrow and anger. Two of his sons dead, both by thunderbolts from the hand of Zeus. Apollo cursed Zeus and longed for revenge. But not even Apollo dared to take revenge on Zeus. Instead, he turned his anger on the workmen who made the thunderbolts. Those were the Cyclopses. These creatures with one round eye in the middle of their foreheads. Apollo came to the mountain where the Cyclops worked. He stood on the rim of the opening in the top of the mountain and looked down into the fiery heat of it. There, in the red light of roaring fires, he saw three great black shapes moving. He saw flames lick at the powerful arms of the creatures as they lifted white-hot irons from the fire. He saw those arms swing great hammers. He saw the clank of metal on metal as Cyclopses made the thunderbolts for Zeus. As he looked down at them, Apollo felt his anger growing. He fitted an arrow in the string of his bow and took aim. But before he let the arrow go, he called to them by name. "Bright, thunderous, lightner," he called. "Hear me, O Cyclopses!" The three workmen looked up. Their great round eyes glared at Apollo, far above them, shining against the blue sky. "With your thunderbolts has slain my sons. So die, you murderers, die!" Apollo shouted. "Your lives for the lives of my sons!" And he sent his arrow flying into the heart of Thunderous. Before the Cyclopses knew what was happening, Apollo shot again, and Bright fell beside his brother. Then, at last, Lightninger acted. With all his might of his powerful arms, he lifted his mighty hammer and threw it at the god. The force of the hammer broke the rim of the mountain under Apollo's feet and sent it crashing down into the fires below. Apollo would have gone with it if he had not leaped away just in time. Yet, even as he leaped, a thunderbolt crashed against his crown of laurel and tore it from his head. Blue and yellow and white lights flashed inside his head. Then Apollo felt himself going down. His head was spinning. His feet were slipping on loose rocks. He would surely have fallen into the roaring fires below him. But at the last moment, the end of his bow caught in the crack of a stone. With one foot already over the edge, the god was saved. Slowly he pulled himself up and away from the broken rim of the mountain. As Lightninger sent thunderbolt after thunderbolt crashing around him, Apollo pulled his bow out of the crack of the stone. He dared not stand up for fear of showing himself against the sky. So, on his knee, he took aim as best he could and shot. The last of the Cyclopses fell. People on earth heard the thunder. They saw the lightning flashing in the clear blue sky, and they were afraid. Zeus on his mountain top saw it too. He came to see who was hurling his thunderbolts. Then he found the Cyclopses dead. He, in his turn, was angry. To punish Apollo for what he had done, he sent him to serve as a slave to a mortal for all of a long year. It was a terrible punishment for a god, to serve a mortal. But Apollo found his master kind and gentle. He was a kind king named Ametius, and he was more like a friend to Apollo than a master. Apollo also found his work pleasant. He spent most of his time on the green banks of a river, caring for his master's cattle and sheep and goats. It was an easy life as well as a pleasant one. He could even look up in the sky above him and watch his own white herds on the windy day. So the time went by. Near the end of the year, Apollo was able to serve Amentius in another way, a way that was more worthy of a god. The king of a nearby land had a daughter named Aclestis. She was a beautiful and gentle girl, and Amentius wanted her for his wife. But when he asked her father for her hand, he was told that he must come for her in a chariot pulled by a lion and a wild boar harnessed together. Only such a man would be worthy of her, her father said. Amentius was sad. What man could harness a lion, or even a wild boar? And could anyone ever drive the two of them together? They would tear each other to pieces. No man could do what the king asked. But a god could, said Apollo. He leapt at the chance to do such a deed. Apollo set off into the hills at once. There among the rocks he found a roaring lion. Then he went into the woods. There he caught a wild boar with great sharp tusks, and then with pieces of strong new leather Apollo harnessed the two animals together. But it was just as Adeimantus had feared. The two wild creatures turned on each other, roaring and snarling. The lion tried to tear the boar with his claws, and the boar tried to rip the lion's belly with his terrible tusks, but Apollo stopped them. He stopped them with his lyre. The god of music took his lyre and began to play. At the first sounds of the music the roaring stopped. The lion's anger left him. The boar forgot his wildness. Like two gentle lambs they walked together, following Apollo and his music. So he brought them to Amentius. Then, in his chariot, pulled by the lion and a wild boar, Amentius went to get Alcestis, and he brought her home as his wife. Apollo had served his master well.